All right, we're out and about. Welcome to All Military. My name is Lee Wolf. I have not used this channel in quite some time, but I'm trying to revive it, experimenting with different formats, topics, things of that nature. Today I'm doing this live stream, which we're going to talk about kind of the changes. There's been significant changes that have been going on in the United States military, particularly since Secretary Hegseth took over. And people are pissed. I mean, some people are happy, some people are pissed, but there's a lot going on with the new change of leadership. And I'm going to open up the chat and kick this thing off and see if we can't get a little bit of an audience for this. This is the last time I was live, I was working on my Jeep. So that's kind of the range here. Talking politics, talking military news, actually working on military vehicles. By way of background, I was in the Marines for about 9 years. I did 2 deployments to Afghanistan, and I'm very concerned about the future of the United States military. It is good to see that some of the woke stuff is going away. There's a lot of people out there who say didn't happen, doesn't exist, not a problem. A lot of people say, oh, you can't even describe what woke is. They say, oh, woke is just diversity. That's not the case. I'm going to pull this up, and let's start with what the hell woke is anyway. First, let's check the quality of the stream. There it is. Okay, so we're actually on. That's the most important part, is that we're actually on. First thing, what is woke? Woke is an all-encompassing term for critical theory, critical race theory. There's critical gender theory. There's a lot of different schools of thought, literal schools of thought, that go into critical theory. And it's a framework of viewing the world through the lens of oppressor versus oppressed. So you have good guys and bad guys essentially in all things, and it's to develop strategies to battle the oppressors in the interest of the oppressed, which sounds good in theory, but the way it manifests itself in practice, when you have things like critical theory, critical race theory, DEI, woke, is it manifests itself as punishment now for indiscretions of decades, sometimes centuries ago. And that's obviously not great, because what it boils down to is, to remedy racism then, we're going to have racism now. And we saw, or discrimination in a broad context, which is what we had been seeing for the last probably, 4 years, basically, since Biden took office. So what they're doing now is they're unraveling that. They're unraveling the woke, so to speak. And you see that in a lot of different ways. They're going more to merit and less to quotas. And a lot of people say, oh, well, there never was quotas, which is, again, technically true. But the way they were kind of working this was, let's lower standards so that we can get, in the case of females, let's get females in infantry, which isn't a bad thing inherently, but if you have to lower the standards to do it, that's probably not going to go great for your warfighting capability. And in fact, it did not. So a lot of that's changing. A lot of that's going away. And, woke is bad. There are a lot of people who can't define it, but I know exactly what it is, because I went to college in San Francisco. I grew up, around this stuff and learning this stuff. We have an entire ethnic studies department at San Francisco State, and in many majors it was mandatory. So, we read a lot of this literature and learned a lot of these concepts back in the day, and it's not great stuff. It's very ugly. It's very ugly. It pits people against each other. It forces people to identify with immutable characteristics first, and not with an identity that they've earned. And the entire premise of the military is to lean on an identity that you've earned. You've earned the title of Marine. You've earned the title of soldier. You've earned the title of airman. And that's the unifying force. And you're judged based off your ability to be a Marine, to be a soldier, to be an airman. And we really started shifting away from that in a very negative way. And I'm glad to see that we're moving away from it, because it's really toxic. It forces people who would otherwise maybe not even look askance at each other to look askance at each other, because it says to, for example, the African American troop, you're the victim of historic oppression. Therefore, that white NCO, that white Lance Corporal, they just automatically have an advantage over you because they look differently than you, which is definitely not something that I think many people think is positive. I mean, obviously the last president did, and he's a fucking idiot. So, whatever, but he's gone now, thank God. And we can finally move on from it, but it's not going away. That's the important thing to remember, is that this shit is going to keep right on coming down the line, year after year. Anytime a Democrat wins, they're coming right back with this shit. So, that's what you have to keep in mind, is that we got rid of it for now, but should a Democrat come back, this shit is definitely coming back. And that's the thing I kind of wanted to talk about on this live stream. I'm also just sort of trying to revive the channel a little bit. I mean, you can see I haven't posted anything here in quite some time. I do podcasting as my full-time job on the production side. So I actually, you can see from this beautiful shot I've set up, production is really my strong suit, producing, putting together segments. I won't say the name of the podcast I work for normally because it's not really mine to say, but it's very successful. We do very well, and I'm hoping to bring a little bit of that here and create the kind of content that people want to see in the military space. Because right now, the military space is just completely messed up. I mean, you have the Military Times, military.com is essentially wholly captured by left of center. And I'm not saying they need to be right of center. I'm not saying they need to defend Trump or defend Republicans at all. But they're essentially full-blown attack dogs. When Biden was president, everything was great. They loved all the DEI bullshit. They couldn't believe that people were, the thumbnail of this live stream is the Marine Corps bandolier with the LGBT bullets. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. That's the thing that gets lost in this whole discussion. I don't have any issue with gay people in the military. I don't have any issue with women in the military, African Americans. I've had commanders, peers, subordinates of all different types. Beautiful people, one of whom probably saved my life. The issue is when we move away from merit based off of identity. And that's something that a lot of people are having a hard time kind of wrapping their heads around. They think no, we should use identity. We should give advantage to people because of how they look or how they identify. And that's a terrible idea. It's an absolutely awful idea. So that's gone. I'm glad it's gone. But it's a concept that's still defended by what we'll call the military press, the military media. And they love it. I mean, they cannot get enough of fighting Trump. I mean, you read, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Steve Bannon at, I think, Military Times or military.com. He was all up on the veterans did J6 nonsense, where they essentially smeared the whole military and said the military has a radicalization problem. And for over a year, the whole military had to sit back and listen as Austin and dipshit Milley ran an investigation to root out extremism in the ranks. And what most people don't realize is they did the investigation and the results came back non-existent. I mean, just tiny, tiny amounts. It was no more prevalent, rather less prevalent in the military. So there was less extremism in the military as a whole than you would find in regular society. So the whole thing was absolutely made up, all because a handful of veterans had participated in the January 6th protest, and I think one had actually been arrested for something on January 6th. And, they saw it as a great opportunity to go after Trump and Republicans and spin this whole thing up, that we had this secret army of extremists like Hydra in the Avengers, like we're all like running around the military, like, oh, what are we going to do? They're hiding everywhere. And it was all absolute nonsense. Of course, those journalists have not apologized. Of course, General Milley, White Rage Milley, has not apologized for slandering most of the military. Austin has not apologized. And Milley now has a pardon. And, you know, his pardon is for crimes that were unrelated to his criticism of January 6th, shall we say. But he probably belongs in prison, but he'll never go because he got his pardon. So we have all these issues in the military that we're trying to unwind. The woke stuff, the fake extremism investigations. Obviously, there was a recruiting crisis because they started doing all that dopey nonsense with, you know, the lesbian female born of a single interracial marriage couple that was also like the parents were lesbian, she was a woman, but her other mom was like a person of color, but they had divorced, so it was like a single mom type. I mean, like a demographic that's so narrow, you almost cannot believe they spent money to recruit to it. And it was just virtue signaling, as people say, which is to say, you know, we want to be seen as adhering to this righteous way of thinking that's permeating the United States, you know, back in the summer of 2020 and all that kind of thing. So they went for it. And of course, it was an absolute train wreck. Everyone was looking at this and laughing at it. They're like, this is insane. The military is not here to be some kind of feel-good thing for certain groups of people. It's for American patriots. Doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter how you identify, doesn't matter what your background is. It's American patriots. Here's the standard. If you meet the standard, you're in. That's it. That's my view. Woman, LGBT, white, male, black, doesn't matter. Standard is here. If you are a lesbian and you want to be in the infantry and you can do 23 pull-ups, you can haul the 100-pound rucksack for 15 miles. I mean, infantry, I'm sure it's way more than that, but I was not infantry. Make your jokes. If you can do all that shit, great. The thing that the defenders of woke purposefully refuse to acknowledge is that that's what we believe. That's what the anti-woke people believe. Their argument, which is made up and a total misrepresentation of the opposition to woke. What they say is, oh, you just don't like women. You just don't like LGBT. You just don't like black people. You just don't want them in the military, which is insane because anybody who wants the United States of America to be successful should want one thing: the most effective military possible. And that includes a couple of characteristics. Obviously, physical strength is one of them, but intellect is another. There is no statistical difference in intelligence between men and women or people of any different background. So you're going to get the same number of geniuses in your average group of 100 women that you would get in your average group of 100 men. You would be insane to not want to draw from that collective brain power, because in the group of 100 men, there's only going to be about one or two geniuses that can go in and become pilots and do some of these MOSs in the military that require much more brain power. So if you say only men, you just cut that number in half. Stupid, very stupid. So nobody wants that. But that's what the people who defend woke will try to convince you of. They will try to convince you that anyone who opposes DEI, anyone who opposes woke, anyone who opposes critical theory in the military just hates people who aren't white men. Which is too bad, because we could have a debate about it, but we're not allowed to. If I had someone on right now discussing this with me, they would just be screaming at me and saying, oh, you're a racist, you're this, you're that, how could you? So it's all going away. This whole edifice of woke in the military is coming crashing down. I could not be happier about it. We'll all be better for it. Merit, merit, merit. Male, female, black, white, gay, straight. If you hit the standard, you get the job. That's the deal. So that's what it's going to be. I think everyone's pretty excited about it. I'm excited to get this channel kicking again. I hope you all have enjoyed it. The almost nobody that watched this live stream, but it's the first one back, so you can't really expect much of an audience when you're first starting out. So thank you again, Semper Fidelis, and we'll see you in the next one.